All right. Without any further ado, would love to move to our next presentation on innovation and technology. This has not only been one of the workforce or the task force recommendations with Secretary Perdue, but also one of Secretary Perdue's emphasis areas. You've probably seen in headlines lots of support for rural broadband and technology all across the country. And so what better way to discuss that very important issue than bringing, in my opinion, two of the experts in the area to you today. And so we'll start today's presentation with Shekinah Pepper, a USDA General Field Representative for Alaska and Oklahoma. So Shekinah, we're turning it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I am actually the Kansas and Alaska General Field Rep. I also covered Oklahoma last year and Maine. And then I'm also currently acting as the General Field Rep Supervisor for the Southern United States. So I've got a lot of hats on and I've worn a lot of hats. And I'm near and dear to Oklahoma. I also served with the Army Corps of Engineers there in Tulsa, managing waterways and shorelines and civil works projects. So there's a lot of connection with Oklahoma that I have. So USDA's Telecom Division for Rural Development has 5 basic programs. We have 4 of them are for broadband emphasis. One of them is for distance learning and telemedicine. So I kind of want to touch on those and what's going on in Oklahoma. The big program that everybody has heard a lot about, it's been in the news everywhere, is our Reconnect program. But what a lot of people haven't heard is that we're now currently in round 2 of the Reconnect program, and our field staff, your current Oklahoma GFR, is actually out in the field reviewing applications under this program, and that's the reason why I'm here to help share some of the workload. Under round 1, Oklahoma received 7 awards for $72 million coming to Oklahoma, and that was #1 in the nation for the most number of awards under the Reconnect program and the most dollars for any state. The second thing that you haven't heard is that Oklahoma is tied for first place in round 2 for the most applications. 11 applications with a dollar value that I can't release yet as they're still in the process of being reviewed. But I think that speaks very highly to what's going on in Oklahoma and the emphasis not only from the state level, but from the local level. These programs are required to be applied by an actual telecom or an ISP, internet support or provider. And so we have a large group of individuals, telcos, ISPs, broadband providers in Oklahoma that are really trying to reach out and expand and serve. And a lot of this has been coordinated also on the state level with the state new broadband office and the state broadband coordinator, which is Sonia Wall, that has really started to bring people together to try to emphasize broadband development, broadband growth in Oklahoma. And we're seeing the efforts of that come out in these kind of programs. And what we're seeing in round 1 and round 2 is a very, very active broadband program in Oklahoma. And that's not counting our telecom program, and our broadband programs that are separate funding sources that have more loan components to them than they do grant component, like the Reconnect program, which Oklahoma is also leading in those categories over the last couple of years for applications and activity. One of the programs I want to talk about is Can-Okla-Scheidler, which is in Osage area of Oklahoma. Can-Okla is a company that I'm very near and dear to my heart. They're also one of my companies that serves here in Kansas. Can-Okla-Scheidler is a co-op company that bought Can-Okla-Scheidler back in 2017 and was looking for a way to expand their services and to serve better the areas that they had just bought. They brought this new area that they bought into their co-op family. And then through the Reconnect program have received funding to build out the entire area with fiber to the home. But much more than that, our local ISPs and broadband providers provide a technical resource in the community beyond just providing that internet service. And so coordinating and partnerships between these groups is very important. And one of the things that made this project possible is the coordination between our National Office of Tribal Coordination, the local Osage Nation, the company, local regional economic development, and even individual citizens. Some of the things that we look at when we're looking at funding a source is the involvement from local communities. And so that's really where the communities can get involved to help these projects become successful, and why they have to be applied through an actual provider. One of the things that we look at is the overall stability of that community's build out and how actively involved that community is in making sure that these projects are successful. So Oklahoma has a great jump start on really kind of building out the areas that are not built out under broadband. The other thing I really want to kind of focus on is our grant side of it. Oklahoma has received 22 Community Connect Awards. This is our community-focused contiguous broadband build-out program. They're #1 in the nation in most Community Connect Awards, by almost double the next closest state. And this just further shows the dedication to your local providers to try to build out broadband in areas that don't have any level of service. And not only that, but to make sure that they can do it through the grants in a manner that they can provide quality broadband service at an economical price. The next one, and there was Secretary Blaine and some of the other people earlier talked about making Oklahoma that top 10 state. And I think that there's a lot of metrics out there that are very difficult to look at, but in a lot of our views, Oklahoma is in that top 10, if not in the top 5 in a lot of things that we're looking at. So I want to go to our distance learning telemedicine program. I think it's one thing to build out broadband, another thing to use it and to capitalize on everything broadband can do. It's one thing to watch Netflix and to buy things on Amazon and to watch cat videos, but it's another thing to really capitalize on what broadband can bring from an economic development standpoint. And that comes to our DLT program, our distance learning telemedicine program. Oklahoma is currently #2 in most awards, with about $17 million in awards to buy equipment to put into our schools, hospitals, communities to expand distance learning and telemedicine. This grant specifically funds the equipment aspect of building out these facilities to connect providers with rural areas and to increase the reach of education and the reach of healthcare across Oklahoma. Oklahoma is second only to Maine, which has received 62 grants. And so while I've talked about a lot of the great things that Oklahoma is doing, one of the things I want to tell you is that there's still room to improve. There's still more that you can do. And so I want to touch on some different areas that states are doing that I think are really kind of innovative that I think you can bring to Oklahoma. So Maine, as I said, I covered Maine for about 1.5 years because of retirement. And one of the things I saw there was a really robust in-home healthcare they were using our DLT program to build out. And what they saw is they have an elderly population that they didn't want to lose from the rural areas. They didn't want to have to move, and they didn't want to have to build a senior citizen centers that maybe in 10 to 15 years, they wouldn't be able to get millennials to move into. So what they've looked at doing is providing that in-home health care so that people can stay in their homes longer and still receive that top-notch level of care. The other state that's really doing some really cool things as far as the distance learning and telemedicine is Alaska, which actually ranks right below Oklahoma in the most amount of awards. However, one of the things I think that Alaska is doing really well is they're very innovative in how they're delivering distance learning and telemedicine. And to be honest with you, that's because they have to be innovative because of the environment up there. Some of the things that we're seeing in Alaska, just to give you an example, is we have a small town, Glen Allen, Alaska, and Copper River School District that has a student population of 430 some students. This year, they currently offer 507 class options. They have more class options than they do students. AvTech, which is the Alaska Votech School, is working on a virtual reality simulation program, training program to train harbor workers for Seward, which they can't recruit enough people to. And then when they get there, they still have to go through the training. So what they're doing is they're building a virtual environment where harbor workers can actually train in the Seward Harbor on how to navigate buoys, how to drive a tugboat, how to tie off the tugboat, so they can get their certifications before they even move there. These are some of the innovative things that they're trying to work on to be able to train people, to bring people in to do that. Oklahoma already has a great wealth of locations that have distance learning and telemedicine, but I think that the step that you can make forward is involving your community with a partnership between Department of Commerce, between Department of Ag, and your local communities to figure out, okay, what are the skill sets that we really need? And then how can we deliver these in a more innovative way via distance? When you look at what technology is evolving to, I think that we have to look at how we're changing our education system, and how we're being creative about all of the things technology can allow us to do. And I think that's one of the positives that has come out of COVID is people are realizing that things like this are possible. You know, a few years ago, you know, having a virtual meeting like this would not have even been a thought process. Thinking about how we're educating people when they're staying at home or working from home. And people are really starting to see the opportunities that are available there. But this is so much more than just Zoom calls. This is actually getting hands-on opportunities to build that. We have groups that are looking at robotics training, and they're doing it via distance learning, where a robot is in a completely different area than the teacher and a completely different area than the instructor, but they're able to do that through the broadband connectivity. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities to not only just say, hey, how do we put in place the technology that's available, but how do we plan for the future? How do we get rid of our current thinking of brick and mortar and look at all of the possibilities to improve training? There are groups out there that are actually doing mental health counseling in VR environments, especially with vets that are suffering from PTSD, because a mental health provider can actually go into a combat situation that maybe is giving the vet a very hard time, and in a virtual safe environment can help them overcome those fears and work through them. And that's not even something you can do in a face-to-face, you know, setting. So there's a lot of things out there when we're talking about being innovative that can really take that a step further and give us more opportunities. But what really comes from, and I think the action step to take forward from this, is from a community. How are you helping to drive what is going on in your community? How are you working with, you know, regional economic development people to figure out what businesses want for certifications? You know, it's one thing to do a precision ag program, but if John Deere isn't tied into how you're doing that and you're not getting the right certifications or the right training, then they're not going to be able to have jobs. So it's tying all of these things together in a partnership across silos. And too often, you know, we get into these silos that we're ag, we're commerce, we're education, we're healthcare, but rather crossing those to figure out how we can prepare people with that workforce development to make sure that they're coming out of high school and being able to walk straight into jobs and continuing their education where they're at, so that we can keep our youth in our community. And this is what broadband and technology and distance learning is allowing us to do. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunities to take how great you've done and just to take it a step further and bring the communities together to talk about how we can make these programs successful. One of the things that we have seen with our distance learning program is that the more the community is involved in the development, in the creation of the services that are going to be provided, in the activities that are going to be going on in these programs, the better success we see out of the program. So really stepping across those lines, bringing people together, like this kind of summit, to talk about how we can come together and synergize these different activities is very important. And with that, I will pass it off to Mr. Kirk.
Thanks, Shekinah. Really appreciate it. It was a great discussion. And for us at Osage Nation, I think one of the highlights that Shekinah really just went over specifically was really the collaboration and cooperative aspect of the opportunities that are presented before us. And he's exactly right. Technology is the one commonality between really everything, whether it's public safety or agriculture or education or telemedicine. Technology really bridges that gap for everything. And one of the great things that really has come out of an event like this, you learn about these possibilities and opportunities for funding and for even resources for really determining how you go about addressing your lack of broadband in an area. And using Osage County, which I'm most familiar with, obviously, since I'm with Osage Nation, we had a tremendous lack of broadband just over the last few years. We've seen a lot of improvement. We've got a huge area, about 2,300 square miles, with about 50,000 people in it. So it's a very, very rural environment. But we're seeing things change because of the federal funding and things that have been allocated for broadband. working with people like Ken Oakler and Total Communications also, which is another Reconnect recipient, and coordinating their efforts with the things that we have going on from a tribal perspective. We have some funding that we put towards broadband within our own community, and things that we're trying to get accomplished with all of our other partners that really have a vested interest in seeing the broadband improved in our area. And I kind of like what Shekinah said a little while ago about the quality of life aspect. Yeah, it's Netflix and there's some of the other things that really have some bearing as well. They're not nearly as important, obviously, as being able to work from home remotely, or to be able to take care of your educational opportunities remotely, or as Shekinah also said, with the mental health or any other telemedicine type of work and activities that you really can't even take part in if you do not have that broadband in place. So it's extremely important to develop these collaborative efforts with the other people, other stakeholders in your community, to make these things happen. Starting out with the great folks that Lee Denny and her group in Stillwater and the USDA and rural utility services, the funding that they've made available for trying to overcome the situation, it's a golden opportunity really to come in and make those applications, draw on those resources to get your own programs kicked off. And that's really what we've tried to do at Osage Nation is take it from the dismal area where we were at and really try and improve this incrementally throughout our county. And it's been a long, hard road, and we're still fighting a lot of different battles in various areas, but we're seeing those improvements, and we're seeing these opportunities present themselves where we didn't have it before. And one of the things, we talked about this a couple times this morning, the COVID pandemic really has kind of had a little bit of a silver lining from a technology aspect, because it has proven the worth and the need for technology and what you can do if you have that technology in place. Having meetings like this, being able to work from home and still be productive, have your kids have the opportunity to keep up with their schoolwork, have your elders have the opportunity to stay in connection with their doctors and their care providers. Things that broadband really is the instrumental, the basis for making all that possible. And I'll just use my dad for an example. He just was able to stay connected with his heart surgeon, his other people he needs to stay connected with on a normal basis, simply because he had the ability to do that from home. Where he lives, fortunately, he did have that broadband available. Had he lived in an area where it's not available, you really would, becomes a life safety issue by not having broadband. So we've been fortunate at Osage Nation. Our leadership has seen the need for it, and it's obviously been enhanced because of the pandemic. But they saw the need for it early, and we were able to work with our US and USDA to be able to get our initial infrastructure going, and then partnering with the other community stakeholders like the state, the county, and other municipalities. We're able to really kind of start to extend this foothold so we can progressively take over what's going on within the county and improve the situation for everyone. Again, in a lot of cases in rural America, the things that we're dealing with in Osage County is very similar to what everybody else is dealing with. You've got vast areas where you don't have coverage, you don't have what you need in place. It just seems like so much to try and overcome all at one time. And there's no need really to look at it that way. You take it incrementally, you eat the elephant one bite at a time. Make that initial reach out to USDA or to your local university that you can really speak with, and take a look at your current situation and ways to address that in a progressive manner. Again, don't look at it too much all at one time, because it becomes very, very hard to really digest. But we've been again, like I say, very fortunate at Osage Nation that we have been able to go out and we have received a couple of Community Connect grants. And then we've had recipients in our area that have got the Reconnect funds, like Scheidler, Can Oakler, and Tota, and then be able to work with them to coordinate the effectiveness of what we're doing with our Community Connect grants, along with what they're doing with the Reconnect funding, and then be able to develop that partnership and that relationship. So as we move forward, we can continue to make those very, very effective additions to what's going on within the county. And it's been a wonderful community to work with, because I think everyone that we've been involved with, at least in our area, has been very, very willing to make that collaborative effort and to stay focused on the overall goal. And that's really improving the situation for the entire community at large. So we don't really leave anybody out where we can. And that's what we're really trying to accomplish. And we've been extremely fortunate and happy with what we've been able to accomplish so far. And we're really excited and looking forward to the future. And being able to tie all this back together again with economic development, with workforce development, it really makes all the sense in the world. And I just urge everybody that's on the call, please reach out to your local community, talk to them about the things that where their shortfalls are at, and help them to come together with an effort and reach out to the USDA to begin with, reach out to the state, to the folks that were on this call today, and draw these resources together so you can make a positive impact on your situation in the area that you're in. And if anyone has any questions about how we've proceeded on things with Osage Nation, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to let you know the things that we've done and the mistakes we've made, because we've made plenty of them. But again, don't let that stop anybody from making that first effort and reaching out and trying to improve the situation in your area. I'm going to finish up, I guess, a couple minutes early here. That's about all I've got. If I can help anyone, be sure to let me know, and I'll pass it back off to Riley or Coach, whichever's coming up next.
Perfect. Mark, thank you so much. Does anyone in the group have any questions for either Shekinah or Mark? All right, lots of good stuff there. Shekinah, thanks again for taking time to discuss with us. Lee Denny has sang your praises over and over, says you're the expert in the field, and so we certainly appreciate your time today. Mark, thanks to you and the Osage Nation for all of your partnership work with USDA and beyond. It was great to have you on today. Also want to recognize Trent Cassee with the Muskogee Creek Nation, who's on the call today. We certainly appreciate your friendship and partnership also. If any of you are a tribal representative or a tribal member or have questions about tribal entities, you can also reach out to the Office of Tribal Relations at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They're up here on the 5th floor with us, and lots of them have joined today's call. And so feel free to reach out to a number of them, Linda Cronin, Dennis Kennedy, Diane Kula, I think Isha Tyreek is on the phone, just to make sure that your voices are heard. And if you have real questions, they're a direct line for you. So thanks again for joining us.